Hey guys, Ted here, and we're going to walk through the TFT latest patch notes. Thankfully, it's a lot smaller patch than 2 weeks ago. So we'll zoom through, talk about any major impacts I expect coming to the meta, and kind of just see what's going on. Again, a lot smaller changes than last time, so no like big econ changes, the Heartsteel rework. There are 2 champs that are getting like slight rework, but I can't imagine they're going to have as noticeable, as big of an impact as the last patch. But let's jump into it. Interesting that Silver Symphony and Decrescendo have been removed. Are those both a part of people abusing Bob? Can Bob can be offered at 4-2. It doesn't. At 4 it has 3-2 4.86 and then 4-2 4.90. So it doesn't have great numbers. Maybe they're just like super high rolling bad to play against, so that's why that's being removed. Because Decrescendo is prismatic gold, silver. So potentially, and Silver Symphony maybe just doesn't feel strong enough. This does have my singing suspicion. I don't know if other players who've been playing a lot of games this patch have noticing this as well. Might also just be with the popularity of loot subscription and Crabgrave and all those other high generating value ones. I feel like a lot on Krugs I've been getting tomes and spats and stuff like that a whole lot more often. I don't know if that is in line with what they're tweaking, but seeing those two be pulled either pushed me in the direction of they're trying to remove the high roll Bob stuff or general high roll silver augments not being incredibly balanced. Would the numbers back this up? Nah, actually, silver seem fairly balanced across the board. I know Spoils 1 is what I'm seeing here is the number 1 and is taken off, and Spoils 1 Vampirism 1, both really good. But I'm saying I'm not going to take long this week, and I'm spending a while talking about the first thing. We'll just not go through that. Headliners completely getting changed with the rules. It's actually something I think either today or tomorrow I'm going to make a complete separate video about. Made a post over on Reddit explaining what's getting changed. We can go over the very, very basic rules, but again, I'm going to have a whole separate video just talking about this. But buying and selling a headliner doesn't change the effect. When you see a headliner, don't show the same +1 trade as you saw that last headliner. So again, I've tried to not cover because this is a whole like 10-20 minute discussion of its own. If you pass a champ, you won't see that champ for another 77754 based on the cost of the headliner. If you have more than 4 copies of a 4 cost or 3 copies of 5 cost, you can't see the headliner. 1, 2, 3s don't have that limitation, and there has to be at least 3 copies in the pool to show up as a headliner. So again, separate video, we're going to talk about that, but pretty impactful to at least how you have to play headliners wise. No more buying and selling is probably the biggest thing you can take away from that. No more buying and selling, and you should be focusing on what headliners you see, especially if it's before your big roll down, because that's going to affect what you have the potential to see, or at least what you will see in X amount of rolls. And then I don't think these other 2 changes matter at all, because scoreboard notifications, nothing is effectively changing. Recommended items, yeah, nothing is effectively changing on that. That's just visual display. Disco getting another nerf. I still don't think Disco is super crazy. It's just Disco is such a pain to play that I'm surprised. That seems pretty significant. What's that, like 20% nerf? If I'm doing the math off the top of my head, that seems fairly significant. And nerfing the full from 3 to 4 seems interesting as well. I think it's going to remain being solid, at least. I know I don't love Disco just because of the way you're required to hold on to units to get there. Maybe I just haven't played that line enough this patch. It just feels really high rolling. When you hit it and all the pieces come together as well as you're not being contested, it feels really good. Like if you're able to stabilize and get there with either enough health or just hit stuff early, feels really good. So maybe that's why they're tweaking it. I think Disco is still going to remain solid, and as it was before the buffs, and I think it'll still be after the buffs. If you hit it in a reasonable time frame, it'll be good to play. Mosher, fix Mosher getting a buff. All right, I guess that's more base attack speed. That's more for the Mosher carries. I know as well they're giving Jax a little bump back up, so maybe they're trying to bring Moshers back. Any other Moshers getting touched? Urgot is getting a change. It's hard to comment on what exactly the Urgot changes are going to be. Urgot is a great unit, even when not itemized. He's just very solid. He does fall off as the game progresses. Poppy getting a slight buff, the 3-star Poppy. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything major mosh or changes there, so maybe it's going to bring Jax back along with the buffs. I think Jax, again, I feel like everything I'm saying is very milquetoast. Like, Jax is okay, Disco's okay, but it's kind of the case. I don't think there's anything, probably a huge hot take I can get out of the way right here. I don't think this meta is that bad. The only thing I think is incredibly annoying or aggressive from the games I've played this patch, and I feel like I've played tons of games this patch. I definitely have played tons of games this set so far, but the only thing I've felt is really bad is Twin Terror, because Twin Terror is disgusting. The numbers for Twin Terror 1, the golden one, is an average of 380, and the prismatic is 381 at 2-1, and then 416 and 412 respectively at 3-2. Those are crazy numbers. Especially they both have 140k pick rate. Like, those are insane numbers for an augment. Those are like an auto click. So I think that is very frankly, the only thing I think is incredibly bad, that aggressively needs to be changed. I think the game other than that is pretty solid. That might be a pretty hot take in general, but yeah, I'm generally happy with this patch, and I didn't think much needs to be changed. Punk getting buffs. I love playing Punk. I love hitting reroll button, activating the neurons in my brain, because monkey hit reroll button, it feel good, especially when reroll button is 1 gold cheaper and it gives you stat buffs. I don't even think Punk needs buffs. I think Punk is in the exact spot it should be right now, which is if you play it, you're playing a reroll comp, so you're at risk for not hitting and not going top 4. But if you play it, you're most likely going to cap out with a 4th or a 3rd place finish based on lobby strength, lobby speed, and strength of augments. And even that, you can get screwed over. You can play a really good Punk board, be going pretty well up until the 3rd augment pick. And if it's a prismatic augment and you don't hit anything that's beneficial to your board, you can just lose. You can turn what would be a top 4 if the tempo of the lobby continues staying the same into a not top 4. And I've had that happen tons of times where Punk, you can just kind of get screwed by augments. And I think a 1-cost reroll comp should be that way. A comp that gives you cheap rerolls and stuff like that, it should be that way. So I am concerned from a person who enjoys playing Punk perspective that people are going to be off my turf. But with the Twin Terror changes, there's probably going to be less people at least playing Twitch. Jinx, I'm gonna go down the Punk path while this is on my mind. I don't think Jinx needs a buff, especially 580, half a BT. She already is really, really good. Any other Punk adjacent changes? I guess Guardians kind of matter. Small changes. Whoa. Why are they gutting Vex? Just completely having the stun duration? That's insane. And she's not getting any complementary damage buffs for that? That is ridiculous. Well, I guess now that's not the executioner you're playing with Twitch. I guess you kind of go down the Punk country path instead, where you play Samira and Urgot. Especially if Urgot's good after the buffs. That is incredibly impactful. Why? I guess they're doing that because of the Twin Terror. But Twin Terror, the crit's getting removed. Like, ideally, that's going to be a million times less oppressive. Or you could even made it scaling them. That sucks. What are the AP? AP is getting just... And Twisted Fate is getting nerfs as well? And Karthus, it'll be hard to tell if the rework completely changes him. Well, it's going to completely change him if it's good or bad or not. But what are the AP comps now? I mean, Ari's solid. What are the good AP comps is the better question. Let me bring this over here. So let's think about this right now. Let's look at numbers and let's think about this right now. I guess there is that Asian Lux that is bubbling up that people seem to be like playing. So maybe with the buffs, it's back to a Jax as the AP comp. And I saw that Katarina is getting buffs as well. She got buffs last patch and nothing changed, so maybe. I think someone in the thread was talking about how Yone is, with the Vex buff, is essentially getting buffed because the building QSS is less necessary and you can build like a Titans, or because a lot of the frontline carries, I think all of the frontline carries really want 4 items right now. Like Jax, you want like crit, healing, Titans, Edge of Night, QSS. Maybe you want like 7 items, or same thing with like Yasuo. You want IE, you want healing, you want QSS, you want Edge of Night. So, what was my point? I got so thrown off by the Vex. Oh yeah, by the Vex stun being ripped off. But now, like, who are the AP carries? Any reroll's probably going to continue to stay solid if that's not getting touched. Bard, there is that Bard Kaisa thing that's been going around. Jax. Do we have any high cost? Like, is Lux? Because Ahri's okay. Twisted Fate. Wow, Twisted Fate. Maybe I'm just bad. The Twisted Fate is 4.25. I guess there's a lot of people forcing it. If I bump this up to Master, both Ahri and Twisted Fate get worse. Gotcha. If I bump it up to Grandmaster, AP comps get worse. Who gets better as I go up? Seems like maybe everything just gets worse because it's anyways. Yeah, but like if Twisted Fate's getting nerfed, Ahri is in an okay state. Karthus it's going to be hard to tell. Like if the rework screws Karthus, like I guess we're just in an AD meta then, because that doesn't feel too great because the 4-cost AP comps are kind of screwed. Okay, so I'd say maybe as the patch starts, you look to play AD comps. So people are talking about, if we're going to circle back to Twin Terror while we're on this AP thing, is one, I guess Lulu's getting significant buff. Maybe Lulu, if you're playing AP, you're just re-rolling at 7 for either Lulu or Lux. I guess that's the plan now. People are talking about, because there is currently people playing Twin Terror with Lulus. There's even some weird things I've heard of where you play 2 2-star Lulus and 2 1-star Lulus, so you have 4, and then they just keep on giving hyper pop to each other, and it's effectively they just cast forever, which is interesting. But without the critical strike chance, it opens up a lot more possibilities for Twin Terror. Probably not going to be as strong as the Executioner ones, but something's going to be figured out. It seems like it's pointing towards it being Lulu, at least with what is going on currently. So I was looking at Punk, I think, and then I got distracted. So I am definitely concerned overall at the state of AP comps, especially level 8 roll down AP comps, because I don't think they're going to stabilize as strong as the AD comps are. So it's going to be that either that level 2, level 3 reroll, and it can be a little bit difficult to gauge how those are going to be. Maybe Jax is back with the Mashra buffs. I don't know. So big concepts, and let's again not get on this too long. I said this one was going to be short. There's just so much I want to talk about. Patch notes get me moving. So I guess I'll regroup before I want to read everything before I make grand statements about the state of AP/AD the next comp, or at least make my predictions. Okay. Cassante getting a nerf seems interesting. I don't feel like he's core in anything. I feel like we're now, as much as I shit on Bruiser's last patch, Bruiser's came back. And Kennen getting a little bit of a buff, 50 HP is really nice. Maybe that combined with Lilia getting a small buff. I thought I saw MF getting, she's just getting a small change. I think I just really want Jazz to come back. But Jazz is really good currently with Wandering Trainer, but I don't think those will be enough to bring 50 HP on Kennen, and slightly better scaling on MF's not going to bring it back. Katarina got a small buff last patch, wasn't enough. I was very surprised how inconsistent Country has been. Actually, no, numbers for Country are currently really good. I guess it's just I've not had personal success playing Country, and I think it's because when I see you can't really force it. You kind of have to just keep your door open and play Country if you hit the proper thing. So I think that's more a skill issue than Country being bad, because from the numbers, it looks like Samira is averaging a placement the same as better than both Akalis, better than Ari, better than a lot of the 4-cost Urgot and Samira. Actually, I'll bring this over here so you guys can see this. That 4.39, 4.24 versus most. Yeah, at least Samira is better than most 4-costs. All 4-costs? All 4-costs. That's crazy. Maybe I should I'll spend the rest of today just slamming Punk. Yeah, so Cal's getting completely reworked. So again, it's hard to make judgments on how well she'll perform or what role she will fill now. So we'll kind of see on that, put a pin in that. Small quirky buffs. He'll be a little bit better item holder. Olaf's just getting tech change. I'm really surprised at the rise of Olaf, and it's considered a small change for this Jax. And small debuff on and small nerf for Yasuo. Okay. Again, I don't expect the massive changes I'm seeing here are, of course, the reworks of Kayle, Urgot, and Karthus, which I'm not even going to venture the judge. That seems like a pretty big nerf, the Twist of Fate. The double nerf might be enough to kill Disco. Vex getting that big nerf really surprises me. I think Ezreal getting buff is good. Thank God for that Sona change. That is so annoying playing healing and attack speed Sona when she just gives attack speed or healing to a training dummy you have in your backline or a training dummy that you don't need to do anything, or especially the tentacles if you're playing 5-cost soup. Bigger Shot getting buff. Bigger Shot, I think, is terrible numbers right now. Heartthrobs, I think, is still one of the worst augments. So hopefully the rework makes it at least clickable. I think it's been not clickable the entire set. We already talked about Twin Terror changes. Good for something. Silver, still probably not going to be great. I think it's just better to get Spoils of War, because with Good for Something, you either need close fights or... Yeah, you need close fights for you to not lose a ton of health, whereas Spoils of War, you can pump levels, you can play aggressively, you can win rounds and still get full value. So Good for Something is just going to be worse. It's probably hard to bounce, because if you make it high enough, it's just going to be incredibly broken. And then you could still probably play aggressive leveling patterns with it, where you just play 5, where you play like 3 bad units and 2 really strong units so you win rounds, but get high chances to drop gold, which allows you to push more levels, play more units, etc. I don't think that little bit of gold buff will make late game specialists any better. Being down a augment, even if it is a silver one, hurts a ton. This feels like... I think Artifact Anvil is bad because of the variance. And even though this is going to produce less gold, I think that this still is one that produces gold, is kind of the reason that Artifact Anvil sucks, is because if you get like Mogul's Mail, which I guess technically does produce gold, but very rarely gets all the way up to the stacks to pop. Like if you get a bad Artifact Anvil, you're playing a completely different game as anyone else. So this still dropping gold, I think, continues on the problem. Maybe it'll make it more in line with the other ones, but I didn't think Artifact Goldmancer's staff was the one that was performing the best, if I am not mistaken. Okay, it's up there. It's right up there with Zhonya's, Goldmancer's, Diamond Hands. I guess it is the best performing numbers. Why Gambler's Blade is all the way down there, that's surprising to me. I think just generally it just feels bad. I think I'm just a big Artifact Anvil hater, so maybe this will bring it in line. Maybe that's what they're seeing with the numbers-wise. But it does feel like a big divide between like the really good ones, the really good Artifact Anvils for specific comps like Zhonya's or Mana Zane, Triforce, the ones that generate gold that kind of leave you more open in the game, and then the ones that even if you hit the perfect comp for it, it still feels kind of bad. Sniper's Focus, DFG, Hole, Crusher, Mogul's Mail, stuff like that. I feel like Artifact Anvil just feels bad. And Kai'Sa, I think she would be stronger if they got rid of the dash, quite honestly. Yone getting a large nerf here. But there was discussion again with Vex getting such a big nerf that this might be negligible. But I do think if it becomes an AD meta, and how sometimes inconsistent frontline carries can be, and with Ezreal getting a buff, because I think this is our last slide. I can just quickly go through the bug fixes before we do it. Lucian trying to get fixed again. We'll see if this actually... Wait, how many of these are just for Lucian? Anyways, we'll hopefully Lucian will finally work properly 4 years into the set. Yeah, I don't think there's anything incredibly important there. So, overall feelings. What I was going to say, I'll continue on my 80 versus 80 comp. So, I think we are headed towards, based on all of the changes collectively, because Disco gets a whole lot worse. Disco's getting a whole lot worse. Masha's getting better. All of essentially the standout AP carries, Vex with Twin Terror, are all kind of, and Karthus is a question mark. Twisted Fate is objectively worse. Ari's still been okay since the changes to her. It seems like a very 80 focused meta. Or going high levels with AP comps. Or, so, how do I express this in a more concise way and a more straightforward way? I think we're headed towards an 80 meta, especially with what 4 costs are going to be good at holding items, because generally the power balance is based around that. So, might be in an Ezreal, Akali, Caitlyn, Viego, Zed, etc. meta. And if you're playing AP, I guess you aim to go Jax, Lux, Katarina. It does kind of feel bad that it seems like the best AP carries are going to be Jax, Lux. I'm just seeing a lot of jams in the EDM area of like priority of getting those units if you get AP items. Or if you're in the circumstance where you have a bunch of rods, I mean, you can kill, like, rod armor you can use to kill rods, or Rageblade in an 80 comp. Or I guess in some 80 comps you can kill a rod with a BT. So you might not be completely screwed in that favor. Yeah, because you can see, like, that on Caitlyn. Tears you can kill for Ezreal blue buff. Yeah, but if I had to make a prediction for the patch coming up, I would say it seems like AP comps are either going to become reroll or much less valuable compared to their AD compatriots, unless you're able to rush to level 5, where I guess still that doesn't feel great if Ziggs is your only real out. So look to be playing AD comps when the patch comes out. And Punk's still going to be good. Don't play Punk, though. That's for me. You can play anything else. Yeah, anything else? Yeah, so I'm a little concerned that AP is getting a little too kneecapped and it doesn't really have a good 4-cost carry unless this new Karthus is God amongst men. Yeah, but that will do for me. Let me know what you think about the patch coming up. If there's anything you think I overlooked or missed, if you think my predictions suck, if you think I'm a bad player who has never gained LP in his life, which I mean, fair and fair. But yeah, I've been Saves Untitled. Thank you for joining us for another patch notes. I'll see you in 2 weeks when the game drastically changes again. And yeah, I've been Saves Untitled. See you guys next time.